a team I want to talk about now is going to be DRX, the Korean team, right? Because here's what sucks. Especially when I see all this, like all these other regions having good results, and then people like Paper X are potential contenders. Because I come from all these esports where Koreans are amazing. I just want Koreans to potentially be the best in attack FPS. Because when it happened in Overwatch, I thought it was amazing. I thought it revolutionized the game. And I've always wanted to see in CS what would happen, essentially. This is the closest I'm going to get, probably. But the problem with the DRX team, as far as I can tell, Gio, is this. They are like the ultimate tease. They always look like, oh, they're coming fucking strong this time. But then they just fizzle out, don't they? Like, they never quite make as far as you think you're going to.
Here's the thing with DRX is, like, they're great until they start facing European and North American teams. And that usually comes, like, when they get to this bit where they're in the middle of the playoffs bracket, and it's like, oh, shit, now I actually have to face the really hard teams. And I don't know, they just, like, struggle when they get there. And the thing is actually, so DRX went out after losing to FPX in the lower quarterfinals, and they got to the lower bracket in their previous series, which they played against Optic, which was the upper bracket semis. And in both of these series, they looked arguably like the better team. Like, the beginning of the game, they looked really, really strong. I mean, I think DRX took Optic's map, which was the first map. It was 13-4. They, like, blasted them. And then it just looked really not good on the following map. And then it was quite a close last map. In the case of the game against FPX, the first map, I'm pretty sure at the half, it was 6-6. So it was like... And this was FPX's map choice, was Ascent. And so every time, like, FPX were putting a round on the board, DRX were matching it. And they couldn't really get away. And then you get towards the end of these maps and the end of the series, and suddenly that slips. Like, the other team manages to find, like, the crack in the armor, and they can then, like, pull it all apart. And DRX really, really struggle with that. And I think that DRX, one particular player has received quite a bit of criticism throughout the course of this event, and that's RB. Now, RB is an interesting one because kind of back last year, you'd pretty much see RB mostly playing agents like Killjoy, like really taking on that Sentinel role. But because Buzz has been, who was always their traditional Jet player, Buzz has been playing a lot of Chamber, RB has then moved on to Jet. And actually, we've seen RB kind of taking a number of different roles because he played KO against FPX, he played Neon against FPX, and I'll be honest, like, there are moments where he plays really well, but the problem with RB really is that he dies he has died in a lot of opening engagements, at least in this event. His statistics have been, like, I don't know, a little bit rough. Like, he has the highest opening death per round of any player in this tournament. He has the 5th lowest cast percentage of any player in this tournament at 65%. And so it's just sort of like, he's a good player when he's really on. Like, there are rounds where you're like, holy shit, this man's a machine. But it's just the times where he's letting the team down, he's kind of really letting the team down. And that's something that he's received some substantial criticism for over the course of this event. And yeah, I just think that when they come up against these teams, like a team like Optic, this Titan from North America, it just gets really, really difficult. And I mean, so in Bind, for example, which was the third map, that was the one that was actually quite close. It's like they want to be making these, like, very, I don't think ballsy is necessarily the right word, but very decisive opening engagements. And so this is where RB is getting called out, right? It's like, you've got Ye standing there as Chamber on somewhere like, I don't know, Garden, B Long, and it just, he can get the opening kill because he's just standing there with an op, or he's got his tour de force, or even if he's just got his sheriff thing. And then suddenly you're in a 4 versus 5 very early on. And it sucks because, like, there is such a lot of real prowess in this team. But it's another team where you look at them and you're like, okay, should you make a change, because you once again have been one of these teams that have had some amazing stories and some amazing
how
runs,
good do you actually
some
think
amazing
that
performance
in terms of like individual ability, like mechanics and like raw skill, like how highly do you rate the DRX team? Do you think they have skilled players?
Yeah, no, I think they're great. I mean,
don't
I
people
think
usually
that,
rave about the Stacks guy? Isn't he usually like the star player or something?
yeah, I mean, I love Stacks. So Stacks was always really known for playing Breach, and his Breach is absolutely fantastic. And I think Buzz has always been a fantastic Jet. I think that there are other players in similar roles that I would rate higher. I mean, I think that Stacks, in terms of his literal like ability to play Breach, for example, is pretty up there for Breach players. But if we're talking about like the mechanical ability, they are all very mechanically adept players. And I do think Buzz is a fantastically mechanically gifted player. But then I don't know if, whereas maybe this time last year, we would have looked at him and been like, oh yeah, no, he is like really, really up there. I don't know if I think that he stands out enough amongst people who are similarly rated or similarly performing for me to be like, oh yeah, this is. I've always been a bit of a DRX skeptic. I will put that, and I think that came out in the last episode that we did.
Yeah.
And I think it is because I think they're a great team, but I just don't get that like wow factor from them. I think because overall their international performance has always been good, but like, it's like, okay, they're gonna make it into playoffs. They're not gonna have a deep run. They're not gonna have a shallow run. They're just gonna have a run. And so I'm always more interested kind of in like what their opponents are doing. I'm like, I don't look at someone like Buzz and I'm like, oh wow, I'm so hyped to see Buzz play today. But I can see why some people would be. But even like, I might look at a team like, I don't know. I mean, Exet, who didn't even go as far, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm stoked to see Cryo, because I'm like, I know that just for me, like Cryo has stood out in terms of like the way that he performs. That doesn't even necessarily mean Cryo is a better Jet than Buzz, but it just, I don't know. I've just never like, DRX have just never really like blown me away.
Sure. I will say as well, there is also like that very lazy angle, which some people essentially will just think they should be the best because they're Korean. It's like, it doesn't really work that way, does it? Like, it's not like Koreans just spawn the best in games. They have to like have loads of people play the game and the whole esports structure and all that jazz. Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.